right, going live. Okay. We are good to go. We're live now. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our GHPAC Ghana Diaspora December Town Hall. We are good to go. Diaspora December Town Hall. And we know it's Detsy December, but we're really trying to rebrand this to be Diaspora December because obviously there's a lot that goes on beyond just the parties, right? There's a lot of activities, there's a lot of business to do. GIPC just had a meeting recently. There's a Diaspora Summit next week. There's a lot of opportunities to learn about opportunities to invest and build businesses. But there's also a lot of give back opportunities as well. And really soon we'll talk about those give back opportunities, at least the ones that GHPAC is endorsing via our foundation, as well as partners and allies of which we will be sharing what they have going on coming up. So stay tuned for that. If you're not aware, GHPAC has a foundation. It's called the Forward Ever Collective Foundation, which is our charitable arm, our 501c3 arm, of which we're touching everything from immigration issues to health, but here in the United States, as well as in Ghana, as well as youth building, and leadership, democratic governance, pretty much everything you could think of, galamsey, everything you could think of. So we'll be talking about that in about, say, 45 minutes. But initially, we want to have a conversation, and this is intended to be a dialogue. So everyone feel free to participate, ask questions. No question is silly regarding a lot of policy issues that are occurring right now. That are really critical and that we need to be aware of going into 2026. But first, an introduction, if for those who are new or those who are watching on the live stream who are new and have never heard of GHPAC before. I'm Ajwa Chimateng, President and CEO of the Ghana Diaspora Public Affairs Collective. And GHPAC is what we call it short. And GHPAC has been around for 5 years, incorporated in 2019 and really launched in 2020. And I'm going to put the website in here for those of you who may not know of the website, which we are going to update it very soon so that it starts to include all of our events, being that we have a lot of events coming up in 2026, including, very importantly, our gala. Sorry. Fanny, can you put our website in the chat? I don't know why I'm having an issue right now with that. It's not going. Can you do that, please? Okay. Our gala. So the Golden Gala and Symposium, which means that we have like a mini conference that we touch on different topics. And then our gala, which is biannual, every other year. So every even year we're hosting this. And so 2026 in September, we always do this around Congressional Black Caucus, ALC, Annual Legislative Conference, as well as around the period of the United Nations General Assembly. So between UNGA and CBC Week, we always do our gala in an even year. So in 2026, our gala will be September 27th. Wait, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. That was last time. September 26th, Saturday, September 26th. Please save the date. It will be in DC as always, of which we will recognize at least 25 upstanding members of society, really showcasing Ghanaian excellence across various industries and those who have really contributed to the community. So we don't just recognize people who are really good at their jobs, or people who have excelled professionally. How have they used their platform to give back to the community in some way, either here in the United States or back at home? So our gala, again, will be September 26th. We will have different topics. Right now, we're ruminating over the topics and over keynote speakers. Mid-January, actually, if you go to Golden Gala, that's our, okay, hold on. Let me just put in the website and then I'm just going to show you guys everything before we get into our topics. So this is the website. So if you've never visited our website before, it has a lot of the critical information on here. So obviously, what we're about, GHPAC, we being a nonpartisan advocacy organization, also the largest organization for the Ghanaian diaspora in the United States, working with Ghanaians, people of Ghanaian descent and friends of Ghana, where we address different policy issues, but also social issues and community building. We do have, let's go to our about. We are C4, but we do have our charitable arm, the Forward Ever Collective Foundation, which I talked about. And then we also have our PAC, the Ghana Diaspora Political Action Committee, which is a federally registered PAC, and we do support candidates for office. So being that in 2026, it's a midterm year, and that there are 435, all 435 members of Congress are certainly going to be on the ballot, which is stunning, by the way. It's a unique opportunity to completely reform and reshape our highest level of government, right? Legislative government. So that's a big opportunity. Certainly, we're going to have a lot of candidates that we are supporting running. So if you're interested in those activities, make sure that when you sign up for your membership, if you haven't already, that you click that committee in our membership portal, so that we know to involve you in all of those activities. Okay, so otherwise, there are certainly a lot of policy issues that we will be engaged in. Certainly, immigration continues to be a big issue, but also, healthcare is a big issue for us. GHPAC, we were instrumental in making sure that PEPFAR was reauthorized. PEPFAR it was a USAID program that helped to provide HIV/AIDS drugs on the continent and elsewhere, but it was critical for the continent. And we lobbied to protect it, and we were able to successfully get it reauthorized. So when we say lobbied, we went to the Hill, we took the largest African diaspora delegation to Capitol Hill, and successfully lobbied for PEPFAR to be reauthorized. Now we're part of the fight for AGOA, and so it just passed committee vote on Wednesday, I believe, Tuesday, Wednesday. And now, of course, it will face a floor vote in the House, and of course, we're huge supporters of that. And we also successfully lobbied against the federal remittance tax. Now, it did pass, but we were part of an effort to get it reduced from 5% to 1%, and have it more restricted. But we believe it should be repealed completely. I mean, so remittance tax is basically every time you send money via SendWave or MoneyGram or whatever back home, it's getting taxed. So we're completely against that for obvious reasons, for a lot of reasons. And so that's going to be a big focus of ours next year. And then we're looking forward to see the reestablishment of the Congressional Ghana Caucus. That's going to be a big part of our work at the PAC level. One thing that I will say is that if you'd like to get involved, there are plenty of volunteer opportunities. You can fill out this form, or really the best thing to do is to click on becoming a member. When you click on becoming a member, okay, then you will see the ability to pay dues and become a member. We are rolling out a new membership structure next year. It's actually already begun, actually, but basically all kinds of perks and membership benefits are going to be provided, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on today. And then, as I mentioned, before we open up the discussion to the issues, is the Golden Gala Awards. As I mentioned, this is the website for the Golden Gala Awards, where we'll be announcing speakers and guests and performers. Last year we had Kwabena perform. That was really wonderful. Like I said, you see all these luminaries. That's Congresswoman Gwen Moore. We will have obviously a lot of political leaders, government leaders, business leaders involved, but we're also going to be really celebrating the community itself. And so that's where we really hope that we invite you guys to participate in the nomination process that will kick off mid-January. These are all the categories: community leadership, corporate excellence, cultural heritage, youth empowerment. You know, click through now to think through who you might want to nominate. Because every year the nomination process becomes a bit more stringent. And then also there's an opportunity now even to get an
David, did it fit?
An early bird. Oh, okay, wait a minute. I'll make sure that this gets fixed. But if you go, there's usually an opportunity to get an early bird. Oh, here I thought I was showing the right screen and I wasn't. Okay. Here we go. Let me go back just to finish this point. Okay, so Golden Gala Awards, if you go to the website, goldengalaawards.com, you can get early bird tickets. I think it's right now $75 before it goes up mid-January to our normal early bird rate of $150 and then continuing. But yeah, so this is what I thought you guys were seeing. But yeah, this goes to show you just a little bit what you can expect. All the luminaries involved. Okay. All right. Any questions about GHPAC and any of our upcoming activities before we go into the key issues of this town hall meeting? All right, I hope you guys are not going to be quiet and shy today. There's lots to talk about. All right, so we're gonna get right into it. Who is aware or has been tracking the issue around the dual citizenship bill? Is everyone aware of it? Okay, very quiet. I'm going to assume that means no one's aware. Okay, I see. Thank you, Stephanie Arthur. Thumbs up. Appreciate that. Okay, Janine. Okay, you've heard of it. Great. So basically okay, great, Kaki. Good. All right, so this is the right group. I was gonna say, this is the right group. You've heard of what's going on. So this bill was introduced by Senator Bernie Moreno. He is a freshman senator out of Ohio, and you know, actually of Colombian heritage. So, you know, should know better. But yeah, so, and he introduced this bill that essentially, if it were to ever get passed, calls for an end of dual citizenship in the United States. So it's called the Exclusive Citizenship Act of 2025. And it will make it unlawful or illegal to hold U.S. citizenship at the same time as any other foreign citizenship. And so, if it also means that if you were to go for a foreign citizenship, even with that would then be immediately a formal or official relinquishment of your U.S. citizenship. Right now, as the law currently stands, you would have to formally apply to relinquish your U.S. citizenship. So basically, there isn't a situation where when you go for foreign citizenship, then that you then have to necessarily inform the United States that you have a dual citizenship, even though it can come up when you file your taxes, or it can come up with your bank, because they would want to understand if you have foreign assets that are taxable or need to be tracked for regulatory reasons. But other than that, you're not necessarily having to inform the United States government that you have a foreign citizenship. This bill would change that. And then for those who are existing dual citizenships, those who already have dual citizenship, it would provide 1 year of a probation period for those individuals to provide a written renunciation of their foreign citizenship to the State Department or to the Department of Homeland Security. And if they don't do that within this 1 year, they would then effectively relinquish their U.S. citizenship. If this were to pass, this would go into effect 180 days after enactment. He's introduced this basically at the end of this, basically, we're almost going into the holiday recess for Congress, right? So the likelihood of this getting voted on or even considered or taken up in the last couple of weeks, is not very, very likely at all. But it's intended to be really a message bill. It's intended to be a marker. It's intended to elevate this particular senator's status, and for a multitude of reasons. We at GHPAC would caution too much fear around this, and that because it's a bill that has been proposed and it automatically means it's a law. It's not. It has to go through several steps, including a hearing and a markup, ideally. It's not something that would necessarily be included in the end of year package without a CBO score. And so those who might not know what a CBO score is, that's a Congressional Budget Office score. So every bill has to be deemed either budget neutral or budget impacting, particularly, in order to get to a House floor vote, or, usually before you can even be considered for a markup. And you might be wondering, well, why would that apply for this bill? It will need to be enforced. So, think about going through what I just described as what the bill would do. Everyone with a dual citizenship has 1 year to formally relinquish their foreign citizenship. That means they would have to actually try to enforce it by tracking everyone and trying to determine everyone that has a foreign citizenship. That's a huge undertaking that would require a budget, that would require more staffing and more labor. It would require coordination with other countries. So it would need to be scored, and then they would need to figure out how they would pay for it. Also, I must say that this bill, even if it were to, I'm talking about if it just were to get passed, right? Which there needs to be enough political will and political votes for it. So we're gonna talk about that in a second, but if it were to get passed, it would definitely face legal challenges. Okay, because there will be folks that will raise the constitutionality of the bill, right? Because this concept of automatic loss of citizenship is it how does that fly in the face of the US Constitution? And so it's on the face of it, there are many experts who feel that it's unconstitutional even as it stands, without significant revisions as it stands. Okay. And when we say about what would make it unconstitutional, we're talking about even just the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment. So we're gonna talk about that because that's gonna come up again, even with this birthright citizenship issue as well. But you know, there's a lot of complications with this, but also from the political will side of things, think about how many citizens this would impact that, or how many how this bill will fly into the face of special interests. Number one in point, the Israeli diaspora, and APAC. I'd be shocked if APAC were to get behind a bill like this, and they tend to be a very powerful lobby. Even members of the current Trump White House would be impacted by this. So unless they figure out some kind of carve out that excludes those individuals, it would be a problem for people that are even close, individuals that are close to this current administration. I'm gonna pause here and I'm gonna pause here just to see if there are any questions from folks before we get into what GHPAC intends to do in regards to this bill. Or even comments. Questions, comments? Is this something that people were concerned about when they heard about it?
I mean, this is Stephanie. Just wanted to say, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you have said about how this bill would move and if it would even move. But I do think that given that we have a government that is anti-immigrant, the timing of this bill, yes, it's a messaging bill, but like given everything that's going on across the country, the raids and all of that kind of stuff, I could see how people would be concerned about the viability of this bill, right? Not knowing the technical stuff that goes on the Hill and its ability to actually move, I could see people being very fearful. And I was just thinking, there's got to be a lot of, when you mentioned APAC, I'm sure there's many Israel nationals, dual nationals that have dual citizenship, people who are, obviously uh, citizens of Israel and America. And I can see APAC being strongly against the bill like this, because if it's going to hurt their, constituency base, their business, which is going to affect their businesses and yada, 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 I could see them being strongly against the bill, which gives me some resolve or whatever that this bill actually may not likely move.
Yeah, but I think this is where to your point, that doesn't mean that just because I listed all the challenges, doesn't mean that we should be resting on our laurels, and we shouldn't be resting on our laurels also thinking about, oh, there are, more powerful groups that might be against it. Certainly, folks need to do everything we can to protect your status. And so it'll be part of our agenda when we visit Capitol Hill next year during the spring meetings, to basically say, list all the reasons why this doesn't make sense. Now, if you're wondering sort of, and then before I get into sort of talking points, the Senator Moreno, being from Ohio, is a perfect opportunity, especially for Africans and the African diaspora, to definitely push back and against him for introducing this bill. So yeah, we're calling him out. He's definitely a target at this point because really there's so many immigrants in Ohio. There's so many descendants of immigrants in Ohio. Ohio's a very diverse place, and so for him to do this, particularly as a freshman, when you haven't accomplished much in your state, should make him vulnerable in a serious way. Okay. So just like we will have our champions, in Congress, we'll have the people we're not fans of. And so really, politicians work well when they hear from constituents, and so we need to send some letters, we need to make some phone calls to explain, share with him why this was not a good idea, and there are definitely talking points, against this that will appeal to Republicans. We need to talk about the fact that dual citizenship drives commerce, and global commerce, and it drives entrepreneurship, investment. It helps to grow the American identity globally, right? If you have folks who have that freedom to be able to easily move back and forth between countries, building businesses, bringing business with them, trade, all of that. And it also helps with the diplomatic relations with other countries when the fact that US allows for dual citizenship, right? So it helps to grow the United States influence, and those are all talking points that we should be sharing. I should not see our people being like, well, every country has a right to, just decide whether or not they want someone to be a citizen. That's not the entirety of the conversation, okay? We can't be going into a year of the World Cup, having this, allowing this stance of anti-diversity and what makes this country so great. So there's certainly a lot of talking points that we will be sharing, pushing back against this. And if anyone's interested in tracking this bill, understanding what's going to happen next, please write a comment in the chat so that we can include you in any communications about what is happening with this bill. All right. Any other thoughts from folks before we move on? Okay. All right, so then the other issue that has come up recently has been around birthright citizenship. And here's the thing. So the Supreme Court has decided that it will take up the case to review Trump's interest in banning birthright citizenship. Okay, and so again, similarly, many experts are even wondering why the Supreme Court is even deciding to do this because they feel that it's very obviously unconstitutional to remove birthright citizenship. Now you might be wondering, what is even the legitimacy of this argument? How can this even be considered? And what Trump is trying to do is to reinterpret the 14th Amendment, but also just to say that to have a conversation about the intentionality of the 14th Amendment and basically restrict the application of the 14th Amendment by saying it's straying too far from its historical context and origin. So, he's saying that the 14th Amendment was put in place really to recognize the children of slaves, and was not intended to be a situation where you're recognized by the fact that you were born in the United States and that means you're American. The case at issue is Trump versus Barbara. So if you're wondering how to track this case, that is the name of the case. And it's interesting because, in some ways, this goes to the spirit of the Supreme Court, where it's a conversation between an activist Supreme Court versus a more conservative Supreme Court. But the 14th Amendment is pretty plain and to the point. It says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Trump lawyers are trying to say that children born in the United States of undocumented immigrants aren't citizens because they aren't subject to U.S. jurisdiction. But the counter argument is that jurisdiction has nothing to do with whether or not you're legally in the jurisdiction, meaning that whether or not someone is legally in the United States doesn't change the jurisdiction, because by the mere fact that they're in the United States, they have to abide by U.S. law. I know, kind of. You think that's kind of straightforward. But that is what they're trying to argue, that somehow, that they feel that there's a loophole. And they're pointing to one current loophole, which is foreign diplomats. So foreign diplomats are not necessarily subject to U.S. laws in the same way that everyone else is, because they have diplomatic immunity. And so by the mere fact that we recognize that immunity, that means that jurisdiction is open to interpretation. Any questions so far about this or thoughts? Okay. So this is a case that will go forward. And so if we're looking at whether or not, if we're trying to predict what will happen, it would be an extraordinary thing, for the Supreme Court to decide to roll back birthright citizenship that has been in existence for over a century. I almost wonder how they can. The argument and talking points, from a conservative point of view, is how can you argue against an activist government in which conservatives have traditionally accused liberals of being, if you're now going to consider rolling back a constitutional right that has been in existence for over 200 years, right? Has been in existence for over a century, meaning that the origin of it wasn't from a recent panel, you know, where you could perhaps question their judgment. This has been a universal acceptance for a long time, and really not just in the United States, but globally, this is usually the practice. So it would be an extraordinary thing, particularly for the size of the United States and the composition of the United States, to roll this right back. But did anyone have an opinion about this, you know, case that is different from what I've shared so far, or any concerns about its viability? You guys are very quiet today, I have to say.
I'll just add, the because nobody's talking, so I'll just add a a thought I had that when we think about birthright citizenship and all of the issues surrounding it, you automatically go to, you know, your DACAs, your undocumented communities, you know, and so why should anybody who was born here care, right? And I do think like with the that's not a question I'm proposing. I'm just
Right.
something for us to think about when we try to coalition build. You know, why should, you know, foundational blacks or ADOS, right, those conversations that we see happening and are, you know, gaining momentum, why should they care? Why should this be an issue that they coalesce around, you know, black immigrants, you know, support black immigrants in, or, you know, the immigrant community, or anybody who's going to be subject to um, the adverse end of this case? Why should they care? And I'm just interested to hear people's thoughts about how do we coalition build with people who already feel like, you know, this is an immigrant issue. We're foundational. We're born here. This is our country. We're citizens. We don't have to deal with this. This is not going to be on our doorstep, so to speak.
I can come in a little bit and just say, speaking as somebody who's in Minnesota right now, and with all the targeting that's happening, with ICE being all over the place, I think one of the key talking points that we should mention is, you know, they mentioned that they're going after people that have no documentation, but I think I saw a report last night that like 400 of the people that they've targeted in the Twin Cities in the last couple of weeks have actually been US citizens. And they can't actually tell the difference between who is Somali or who is just regular Black or who's whatever. And I think we need to talk about the fact that like they're not going to stop at anything. Like if, you know, people who've been able to trace their roots and have gotten dual citizenship in other countries, they will make an attempt to try to deport them to those countries, especially people that have criminal records that they don't want to continue to hold in prisons and jails here in the US. Like they will try to remove quote unquote ADOS, freed Black folks, whatever it is. And so I think we need to talk about the realities of all of that and talk about like how a lot of the mechanisms that they're using today, they started using on people who were arriving at the border, like testing out these strategies. And so I think a lot of this is misinformation and just a lack of education amongst each other, where people think they're safe when they're not. Like people are like, oh, all you need to do is carry your passport with you and you'll be fine. But they're still processing people that have their passports on them across the Twin Cities. Like they're going into businesses. I heard this morning that they're going into African food stores in Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center, which is predominantly where West African immigrants are. And we were told this operation was specifically just for Somalis. So I think we just need to educate each other.
Yes, and I'm so glad you brought up what's happening in Minnesota, Abena. In fact, we're going to talk about that in a second because, by the way, we have reached out to the Ghana Association in Minnesota to have a conversation, actually to warn what it sounds like is already happening because it can't, what Martin Luther King said that if what happens to your neighbor, if you're not concerned about what happens to your neighbor, it will eventually come to your doorstep. I'm paraphrasing here, but yeah, it's the same thing of we can't just be like, oh, that's just Somalis and that's not going to impact everybody else. Similarly to I believe Stephanie's question, this concept of, oh, is that this impacting immigrants or something, or people who have a close a close association with their heritage, that this doesn't impact us, that's completely untrue. With the birthright citizenship challenge. In actual fact, because it's challenging essentially the 14th Amendment, which, as I've already mentioned, is what was put into place to recognize Black Americans, those descendants of slaves specifically, as citizens, it does become a slippery slope of questioning Black citizenship, period. I mean, it's so crazy to say this out loud, and this is what is happening. But yes, it questions all the equal protections under law. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 that was built upon the 14th Amendment. It will undermine every voting rights cases, every anti-discrimination policy that exists, because you're attacking the constitutional foundation of the entire thing. It introduces the concepts of second-class citizenship and introduces the concept of some kind of other classification of people residing here in the United States, not even just born here. So yeah, so really it's a problem. And we'll be tracking this case. I believe arguments are set to start in the spring of 2026, and they are scheduled to conclude and render their judgment in summer of 2026. Again, right around when the World Cup begins in June. Bananas. So, hopefully they'll do the right thing, but we will continue to track and be part of any resistance to any changes regarding birthright citizenship for sure. I think we should transition right into what's happening in Minnesota before we go to Ghana and then what's Ghana specific opportunities and the foundation program. So which then I'll be inviting Councilman Ali to share a little bit about the foundation's programs and activities, as well as Reggie. So thank you guys so much for your time so far. So Minnesota, as Abena has mentioned, what happened was there was a Somali who was arrested for a pretty huge fraud case, and it unleashed what apparently was an intention, to make this a problem. So a lot of people are saying that this is the administration's attempt to have a distraction, to rally its base, around anti-immigrant sentiment. Of course, Minnesota was very recently played a prominent role in the last election with the vice president pick of Kamala Harris, Tim Walz being the governor of Minnesota, right? Of course, the Somali Minnesotans are most represented by a member of Congress, Ilhan Omar, that many Republicans despise. And so, of course, this was a perfect opportunity storm, whatever have you, to unleash and test. I mean, GHPAC, we're political operatives. So we are, unfortunately, we have a very cynical view of these things, but they're testing messaging for 2026, So they're saying the most outrageous things about these Somalians to see how palatable it will be to the American public. And I'm not sure if you've heard, but there's a website called The Worst of the Worst that's like basically trying to reframe the deportation effort to that everybody that's been deported really are criminals and are awful people and all that stuff. So on that website, they highlight people that have committed the worst crimes to end up getting deported, to sort of imply that everyone that's facing deportation is somehow similarly a criminal. But in this situation, what we're seeing is that the Somali community has been targeted. I will say the Somali community also has been building up its political power over the last few years. Many of them have run for office. They're growing in their political influence. So this attack is not by accident. And certainly for us, other communities Somalis don't even have close to the number of Ghanaians in the United States, right? And so we really should be concerned with how they're being treated because of how they will then view the rest of us and attack the rest of us. And so it's going to be important more than ever for us to, I hate to be crass, grow some balls, okay, and be prepared and really build up our resilience. And the way we do that is to really unite, come together as a community, make sure we're tracking these issues, push back on the narrative. Tell the real stories of our communities in the United States, how we contribute. There's a huge nursing shortage happening right now. Trump's recent, again, I think that was on the bill to talk about today, the recent effort by the Department of Education to now declassify certain careers to be non-professional degrees to impact their ability to apply for federal loans. It's completely a budget issue for them, but it's also targeting the fact that many immigrants and of those of immigrant, the children of immigrants, second, third generation, participate in these degrees, right? So nurses, frontline workers, right? Huge. This would really impact our communities as well. So I believe it's nurses, for some reason architects, but the health field, physician assistants, physical therapists, all of that, accountants, educators, social workers, all of these degrees are being proposed to be classed as to not be eligible for federal assistance and federal loans. So again, this is all a part of a suite of activities and current policies that are being proposed that we have to keep track of because of how harmful it is to our community. Abna, is there anything you wanted to add, because you're in Minnesota, anything you wanted to add about how we could be pushing back against what is happening in Minnesota, how we could be protecting our communities and our families? I don't know if she stepped away. Abna, if you're talking, you're on mute. Okay. Did anyone else want to comment on the issue in Minnesota with the Somali community?
Yes, Councilman Pius Ali here. I was on a call, I think yesterday or the day before, late night call because I'm here in Ghana and it was held in the US. And as part of African communities together, I believe that most of you are aware of African communities together. There is a spin-off called ALIF, African Immigrant Leadership Foundation or something, which I am part of. We had an end of a year meeting similar to what we are having here. And what came out of that is that African communities together, it's likely that they will reach out to us, are trying to build a coalition of African groups to see what can be done to push back against what is going on with the Somalis. Because we all know that, Ajwa, you mentioned part of that as the Voting Right Act and some of the policies that protect it. And also, many other immigrant groups will be targeted. It's going to move from Somalis to another group. I may have seen something online today or last night about how now they are getting ready to remove the protection that is offered to Ethiopians. And as you said earlier, we know what that meant. It is because
Right.
that group is also building political power across the US. So I think not just those of us who are on this call, we should start getting ready to bring in our communities together so that when the opportunity comes, or to create the opportunity for us to collaborate with other African and Black immigrant groups across the country.
That's great that that call happened. We love ACT. Who's the gentleman over at ACT, Stephanie Arthur?
Amaha.
Yes, so please let them know to get in touch with us ASAP. But interesting to hear about what might be happening in the Ethiopian community. We have a close relationship with the American Ethiopian PAC, as well. In fact, talking about building political power, they also, one of their own is running for Congress in Illinois, Ethiopian Americans running for she's about to be former Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky's seat in Illinois. So that's outside of Chicago, Evanston area. We will be inviting him to speak to GHPAC in our community very, very soon. But yeah, we definitely should do some coalition building, letters, all that. Really expressing this distastefulness of all this. So we'll think that through for sure. Okay. Okay, so we are at the top of the hour, and so at this point, are there any other US policy issues to talk about before we sort of switch to more what's happening on the Ghana side of things? Was there anything we have not touched on that any folks want to make sure that we do? Okay. All right. So one thing that positively has happened, we talk about a lot of negative stuff, is AGOA. So AGOA, for those of you who may not know, stands for the African Growth and Opportunity Act. And you know, it lapsed. It was supposed to be renewed. I think it's up every 5 years, and unfortunately, it's up for renewal in one of the worst political environments for AGOA ever. But you know, I will say that folks who are generally even supportive of AGOA have been wanting the opportunity to update it, modernize it. This law initially passed in the year of 2000. So Africa was very different only 25 years ago, right? And so this preceded obviously even the recent Africa Free Continental Trade Agreement, so that has also shifted the dynamics. So AGOA needed to be updated for sure. But you know, there was some opposition to it. I will say that, so for those who don't know, Republicans tend to prefer trade preferences versus trade deals. And so, you know, AGOA makes it as such where it protects trade deals with countries, and is intended to sort of be more of a level playing field for bilateral trade, mutually beneficial trade, in a way that doesn't allow for this sort of Hunger Games situation where you have, you know, the US striking extremely different trade deals with Kenya versus maybe with Djibouti or something. So it's intended to then sort of protect African countries from exploitation and all that as well. And just facilitate commerce in a real way. So it's really important because when you have AGOA, where basically it includes subsidies and all, it's currently you know, it was currently marked up in the Ways and Means Committee, which is the very powerful trade committee, but it will be impacted by appropriations because it does include subsidies, right, and some risk assurance and all that, or to build businesses in specific sectors. And so there have been many American companies that have relied on AGOA to grow and thrive on the continent, right? And so there is something called the AGOA Alliance, which includes business owners, industry, diplomatic corps, all that really want to ensure that AGOA is renewed, not at a 1 year. So there was a proposal from the U.S. Trade Representative Office, for some reason, to only renew AGOA for 1 year, which anyone who's run a business before will tell you, you can't plan for 1 year, right? Like, you might as well, that doesn't, no business plans for 1 year, right? So if you're not able to provide true stability and take away uncertainty at a real level, it's not worth doing. And so thankfully, the bill that was passed, I believe it was 37-3 was the vote, was for a 3-year renewal. So it's a little bit smaller than, you know, the 5-year reauthorization it normally gets. But at least it's not 1 year. So it's the, if you're trying to track the bill, it's the AGOA Extension Act. On the House side, the bill is HR 6500. And on the Senate side, it's Senate Bill 2958. And so, you know, at this point, it will, you know, we're looking to continue to push it in a way that it gets a floor vote, and not just a floor vote, but then signed into law by the Trump White House, you know. So we'll see, you know, because unfortunately sometimes when things then get to the White House, it change, you know, you know, things get more complicated. So they're trying to strengthen the bill. The supporters of the bill are trying to strengthen the bill as much as possible even now. So there was some talk about excluding certain countries from the AGOA Act, which would be awful. Also, there's been some conversations about countries in sub-Saharan Africa being exempt from the most favored nation tariffs, which has everything to do with making drugs more affordable abroad, which is, you know, critical if you think about like you know, preventing certain pandemics from happening and all that. So it's a really critical piece of legislation is the point. And for anyone who's trying to do business at home, and we have to get smart. We the people, oftentimes I would say the businesses that are like at, you know, the table fighting like heck for things like AGOA are often not fronted by us, like Africans. You know, it's folks who have realized the potential of the market in Africa and have built huge businesses and companies that relies on a thorough way, a free, an unfettered pathway to Africa. And you know, and we're sitting here oftentimes trying to just fundraise and, you know, rub 2 cents together to do something at home. That should no, no. You know, GHPAC has always been a proponent of there's usually always US government funds to build businesses abroad, and there's risk assurance and other opportunities for you to tap into. So AGOA is very important. Any questions about this at all? Recently, you know, supporters for AGOA met with the Congressional Black Caucus, you know, as well as there are several, like former Congressman Chris Stewart from Utah is really involved in this. So there are several folks who are already trying to push this all the way across the finish line. And so I think there's a lot of hope that this could happen before the end of the year. Okay. All right. You know, US-Ghana relations have been an interesting ride as of late. If you've been tracking everything from the, you know, the US asking Ghana about debt to certain American companies, to the deportation deal that was struck, you know, with the US. But again, I guess good news recently was that the US, number one, lifted a lot of the visa restrictions that it placed in the summertime as it reviewed sort of its current state of play with relations with Ghana, particularly the new administration in Ghana with President Mahama, as well as very more recently than that, you know, decided to lift tariffs on agricultural imports from Ghana. This is a huge win for President Mahama and the current administration, because obviously agriculture is a main economic driver in Ghana, certainly for diasporans. Agriculture is a huge business for us. A lot of diasporans have pineapple farms, cashew, you know, farms, all sorts of things. And in fact, if you are interested in getting into business in agriculture or otherwise, please know that GHPAC has a business club. It's called the Bese Saka Business Guild, of which we share insights into opportunities to tap into in various industries to do business back at home. So if you're not aware that and you want to know some more information, please send a message in the chat about it. But yes, so this is huge. The tariffs that were imposed on previously from the US included cocoa, avocado, oranges, pepper, onions, and yam. And now all of that has been reversed. So that's a huge, huge win. And for us at GHPAC, we are just encouraged enjoying the most healthy relationship between the United States and Ghana. So really excited to see this development and hope that continues. Okay. Speaking of the business club, just want to let you guys know that Ghana recently, I think in the last month, released its budget for 2026. And so we are reviewing it and we are identifying key takeaways for the diasporans to pay attention to, and we will issue an ebook about navigating Ghana's 2026 budget and understanding what you should know to grow and thrive in Ghana. Is this something that folks are interested in at all?
Yeah.
Okay. Very quiet bunch. Okay. All right. So I don't know who is coming to Ghana in December. I think I asked that question earlier. Love to see just some hands raised. If you could use the hand raised button just to get a sense of who on this call will be coming to Ghana this December. No one? Well, that's not true. I know several folks on this call. Hello? Yes, Councilman, I know you're there. Anyone else gonna be around? Okay. So as I mentioned before, GHPAC has a foundation. Great, Kaki. A foundation called the Forward Ever Collective Foundation. And usually in this time period, this holiday season is when the foundation tends to be the most active because we participate in an annual health fair. I see Stephanie and me and guys are on right now to talk about the health fair, but the health fair will be held in the Kumasi region. And if you give me a second, I'll pull up that information, but it'll be January 3rd. January 3rd, for those of you who can make it, I believe that's a Saturday. And, we're still trying to collect any donated items for the health fair on January 3rd. So if you are interested in contributing any items and especially if you're in the DMV area, we'll love to arrange to pick up those items from you so that we can put it together in the package going for the health fair on the 3rd. And if you're interested in even participating in the health fair and would like to volunteer your time, so that's an opportunity to get involved with the foundation. Please, leave a note in the chat so that we can get in touch with you in regards to that. So the health fair is in the Shanti Manso region. So Kumasi, of course, there'll be transportation from Accra to the region if you need it. But the services looking to still fundraise for key services, dental care, OBGYN cervical screenings, and those who can help with registration and the like on site. The event will be attended by the local Queen Mother, and other traditional leaders, as well as, I believe, the MP, the member of parliament of that region, is attending. There will be breast health education, dental and eye services, cervical cancer screening provided amongst general health screenings and information being distributed. So for those who are interested, please let us know. We are also supporting the blood supply is an issue in Ghana, and there will be a health fair occurring. I believe it's December 18th. If you're already in Accra, you can support this, but this would be donation of blood to help with the blood supply in Ghana, because right now, the situation is as such where folks have to pay to have access to emergency blood care, which is not obviously ideal or good, and that can cause preventable mortality and life-changing conditions due to just not being able to pay at the moment for blood when you're not expecting to be sick or in an emergency situation. So the One Blood Drive is happening Friday, December 19th at the Ghana Armed Forces Critical Care and Emergency Hospital, starting from 9 a.m. going until 5 p.m. At this point, I would like to just have Councilman Ali, the newly named co-executive director for the Forward Ever Collective Foundation, come to the stage to talk a little bit about the foundation and about his particular initiatives within the foundation. Councilman Ali.
Yeah, Ajwa, thank you very much. I think Ajwa have spoken about the foundation earlier, but I will reiterate some of what she said and then share some of the headlines of some of the pillars that is within the foundation. So for whatever collective foundation is a foundation that is created to empower Ghanaians through education, leadership, and community programs. We are a 501c3 charitable organization, and our values are rooted in empowerment, change making, and integrity. And we are hoping to connect or to build on the connection that we have built amongst Ghanaians in the diaspora, mostly in the US, but hopefully we may end up going globally to where Ghanaians are and work with them to empower and our communities. Some of the topics or some of the pillars that we do work on and hope to work on include economic empowerment and workforce innovation, democratic governance and leadership development, environmental justice and clean water access, health infrastructure and resources. I think Ajwa have spoken. Oh, Ajwa, I've not even seen that you are sharing it online, but Ajwa have spoken to some of these. We also have immigration legal support and civic engagement. And some of these pillars are issues that we do directly ourselves. And some of them we do partner with some of our members, and we partner extensively with other African groups locally and abroad. What I mean by abroad is like back in Ghana and other African countries. Adjo, hold on, let me expand my page so that I can see what you are sharing and not
What?
speaking from my.
Did you want me
You
to
say?
go back? I just stopped sharing. Did you want me to go back to sharing?
No, that's just okay.
Yeah.
I personally, some of the things that I care about and I want to see as work deeper includes youth leadership development, um, political or civic engagement. The political and civic engagement will have to be the ones that I'm interested in on the US side. I know that on the Ghana side, there is a lot of things going on that we are working on, including campaign school, where we will partner with an effort that is already going on in Nigeria and other African countries to get young people, not just young people, to get individual Ghanaians who are interested in running for office, give them the skills that they need to run. And then once they are elected, support them as they legislate. Because once someone get elected, definitely they need some skills to do the work that they are voted to do. On the other side, in the US, I have launched an organization called African Elected Leaders. And the idea is that, as we have mentioned earlier at the beginning of this meeting, that here in the US, we have a lot of African immigrants who are running for office and are getting elected, but we don't talk to each other. So the mission of African elected leaders in America or of America is to bring all of us together, find some issues that impact our communities across the US and come up with policies, and also mentor some other upcoming or newly elected who need that support for them to be effective. Adjoa, did I touch on everything?
You did in a very excellent way. So, what I'll do is I'm just going to share the brochure a bit about the foundation really quickly. To just hit home on some of the things you've mentioned. So yes, under the Economic Empowerment and Workforce Innovation program block includes our signature program, the Forward Economic Mobility Initiative, which is new coming on to 2026. And that was all about small business support, entrepreneurship support. So we'll really looking forward to launching that program to provide financial coaching, micro grants, all of that for those of us at the diaspora community. Eugenia is here, right? Eugenia, did you want to talk about Diaspora Youth Hub? Go ahead.
Yes, so the African Diaspora Youth Hub is an organization that I am starting. It's focused on bridging the gap between potential and access. And we all know that, everyone says that the youth is the leaders of tomorrow, right? But how can we stop saying that we are the leaders of tomorrow and also train them with leadership and development skills so that they can lead today? Because we all know that they have the potential, but they don't have the access to lead. So through this organization, we are curating programs that will give them mentorship, accelerator programs for young entrepreneurs, delegation program, hopefully with the African Union, where they can gain access to UN conferences, because that's really where most of ministers and government leaders love to, gather up. And it would be nice for them to really meet these leaders, and then just access and yes, so that's basically what the African Diaspora Youth Hub is. It's basically going to be, I definitely think it's going to be a big platform, a hub where youth can come for information sharing, resources, and I foresee different diaspora offices on the ground in Africa, in government offices using this platform to connect with their diaspora in the US, and forward thinking also in different diasporas like the UK and other locations. So yeah, if anybody would love to join the team, join this initiative, I'm here. You can connect with me.
And she's serious when I tell you. Virginia is not playing around. This thing is going to be such a force, and really excited about it. Um, and then so we mentioned the Growth Circle Youth Mentorship Program. So whereas Africa Diaspora Youth Hub is primarily US based, the African Elected Leaders of America is a US-based initiative. Growth Circle is Ghana-based and currently is an active program serving over 300 students. Is Reggie here to chat a little bit more about Growth Circle?
Yeah, so with groups, thank you for the opportunity. I actually had a small PowerPoint, but it wasn't done much about Growth Circle, but some of the other programs that we're running. So when it comes to Growth Circle, one of the things that we realized was that a lot of young people in Ghana, they are not so much aware of the technology, the opportunities, the different industries outside the traditional ones that we know of in Ghana. That's the medicine and pharmacy, law, and all those things. And realize that now there's a massive influx of because of the free education in SHS and the rest. There are so many unemployed graduates and youth who don't really know what to do after school. So we established the Growth Circle with some university leaders and tertiary leaders in some of our institutions to sort of look out for young people who really need that kind of help and assistance. So one of the things that was core to our programs was we running weekly we call it mentorship talks, where we bring someone from the diaspora who is working in an unknown or something that a lot of Ghanaians don't really know about it, and see the linkage between that career. Like, for example, we had a Ghanaian doctor who is working on hydrogen in Sweden, and sort of exposing how that industry is really emerging because of the alternate energy sources, and how all those career pathways exist in different areas. So it's part of the programs to sort of engage with the youth. We are very much concerned about what is happening to our young people now. The frustration is really getting to a lot of them. I think this week we have one 31-year-old who was arrested by the FBI for romance scam. Earlier this year, we had, so there's a lot of pressure when you talk to young people. It's like now the education is there, but what to do with it? The industries are not really there. So sort of getting them, mentoring the serious ones, especially the ones that want to go into skills. We also have an outgrowth that is called Build It, where we run what we call skillathons, where we pick certain IT skills, UX design, AI, and sort of just run you through, and then make sure that you're able to get these sort of skills to get yourselves in a better position, even to get jobs. Because one of the things that we actually feedback we are getting from even people from the diaspora who are establishing businesses is that they are not really getting the right people to fill their positions, especially with not just the hard skills, but even the soft skills, feedback, reporting, customer service. So we really want to let our young people know that now there's competition. There are lots of, now because of the African free trade, there are a lot of Nigerian professionals working in Ghana. There are people from the Gambia working in Ghana. So even if you are not that, you might not. And the other way around too, there's a lot of Ghanaians now working in Liberia, in Uganda, in engineering, in electrical engineering, in civil engineering. So there's this sort of exchange that is really, really going on. But you just have to be in the right positions. We have some of our young people getting job offers on LinkedIn, getting the attention of recruiters. So though there's high youth unemployment, but if you position yourself very well, you can get. I think all of us, we had heavy hearts when some of our young people died in applying to join the military. I mean, 60,000 people applied for about 4,000 positions, and there was a stampede and all that. So these things are really, really things that's, we always think about and see what can we do, how can we position our young people to do that. So I'm really happy that the Forward Ever Collective Foundation is on it. I remember 2021 when we went to Asante Achim Krofa. I think, was it 2 years ago? They sent me a picture of the pineapple farm, and it's doing well. So so it's amazing. Yeah. So yeah. So a little difference, a little, impact and directed, strategic, mentorship, leadership of our young people can actually translate into something that's very big. And I really want to encourage our family in the diaspora to really, really help, because one of the things that I realize is that you sort of, because of your exposure, you're able to help them see beyond Ghana, help them see beyond the networks, help them see beyond, there are even Ghanaians who are getting opportunity to attend AWS conferences in the US from Ghana, based on how you're able to position yourself. So, and all those ideas come from the diaspora. So, I mean, the organizations where you work with always contribute for Ghana. One of the things that I've been working on now is to get access to the youth to some of platforms like LinkedIn Learning, Udemy. I know there are some places in the US that they're able to give people links for them to get like 6 months free access, where they can learn a lot of courses and build. So things like that would also really help our areas. And one other thing too is that we also do a lot of exchange programs. I currently run a program at Columbia University, their business school, the executive MBA students. They send some of them to Ghana to work with entrepreneurs on a pro bono basis. It's a part of a club in Columbia does that. Even we have 2 students arriving in Ghana next week. We've already had like 2 or 3. So they sort of support entrepreneurs that are struggling with something specific, maybe marketing strategy, and then sort of, so some of these things can really, really help, but we really need to keep our young people encouraged and let them know that it's not the end. With the right strategy, it's difficult, but with the hard work, with training and with mentoring, you can really believe. So that's what we are doing with the growth circle. Next year, we are looking to do a lot of in-person events. We are looking at visiting regions. I've already been to Volta region. Most of the municipal DCE executives, they are all ready. They have the venues, they have the conference rooms, they have the youth there. I think they are really ready to accept organizations like ours to sort of speak to them, encourage them, let them know the platforms, the systems that are available. And yeah, so there's a lot of avenues for impacts there, region by region, different approaches that we can do to help. So that's a little bit about some of the things that we are working on. Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. Reggie, amazing.
Yeah.
Always. I was actually going to say, regarding LinkedIn, one of our GHPACers has deep connections at LinkedIn. So if you put it in the chat, I think you're in the strategic chat, right? If you put in the chat, get connected with him, Terry, so that we can talk about that opportunity to have access to the LinkedIn learning platform and incorporate that into the Growth Circle program for sure. So also I shared in the link, this is a lot, right? That we're doing here, but really it doesn't take much, like as Reggie said, how a small workshop we did couple years ago, has now in a rural part of Ashanti region, has now produced a pineapple farm that is going to help with jobs and also address food insecurity, right? And other things in one area. So just with a small little bit of effort, whether it is just volunteering for our programs or even donating can go a long way. So I'm just sharing the new donation platform we have for the foundation with the theme, what we build outlives what we give. So here is where, I'm just going to talk about it. $25, a $25 donation goes to provide medical supplies, gloves, test kits, PPE for one family at the health fair that we talked about that's happening on January 3rd. $50 is a scholarship for a young person with the Africa Diaspora Youth Hub that Eugenia was discussing. And really, we'll be picking the delegation, the inaugural delegation of these youth, and hoping to participate in a lot of the AU and meetings, the World Bank meetings that are coming up in April. And then Growth Circle, we just heard Reggie talk about Growth Circle. And so $50 can help towards a youth to attend these things and have all the resources that they need. $75 covers 1 hour of our pro bono immigration legal support. So we didn't get to talk about that today, but clearly we spend a lot of time in the first hour talking about all the immigration issues that our community is going to be facing. And so we need to help folks. So that helps to provide at least 1 hour of legal support for 2 to 3 community members. And then $100 is 1 hour of pro bono financial coaching for our small business entrepreneurs in our community. So like I said, with our Forward Mobility program, of which we'll be helping small businesses stay capital ready and or preserve their capital in this sort of uncertain economy that we're facing. This is going to be incredibly important as we look to preserve the resiliency of our community. I see that there might be some guests joining our town hall as we wrap up, but were there any questions first about the foundation or any of the upcoming activities? Again, if you have your pen in front of you, you can bookmark the dates: January 3rd, the health fair, December 19th, the One Blood Drive. We will be hosting, GHPAC will be hosting a meet and greet in Ghana. Right now we're looking at it to be January 2nd. And it will be a kickoff for the World Cup, as we anticipate being involved with World Cup activities next year as well. So any questions from folks? If not, I'm gonna try to recognize anyone who would like to speak. Anyone that would like to speak or share thoughts? Sadiq, you mentioned you have, should we be recognizing protocol?
I just wanted to let you know, just so that it's not like he's just listening in, but I have Ambassador Wyatt listening in today with me.
Hello, Ambassador. How are you? Welcome.
How are you? I'm listening to the very informative session on the AGOA. So congratulations. I just sitting with him, I'm listening.
Okay.
Love with it.
You're most welcome. And everyone, if you missed parts of this town hall meeting today, I saw some folks came in a little bit later. This is live streamed. So if you want to get a replay, let us know and we'll send you the link for the replay. As we talk through we talked through all the particulars around the dual citizenship policy issues, the birthright citizenship challenge with the Supreme Court, and AGOA, the renewal of the reauthorization for AGOA for the next 3 years, and making sure that that happens, as well as the recent win with the U.S. tariffs being lifted from Ghana agricultural products. So Emmanuel from Arise Foundation, did you want to share anything?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. I join your program most often. I'm currently located in Nashville, Tennessee. I mostly get emails from you guys. I'm actually the president of the Rise Ghana Youth Foundation, and we do similar programs in Ghana. We've raised millions of dollars, and we're also in all the 16 regions, and we're currently investing in projects that will create jobs in the country. So I just posted it in there. If people would also like to look into some of the programs that we do in the country, they could do that as well.
Okay, Emmanuel, I think you should get in touch with us. If you're looking for support from the foundation, that's if you'd like to partner or collaborate. I'm going to put in the email to send any notices to in regards to this, info@forwardevercollective.org. But then, thank you for joining us. I'm glad to hear that you've been getting our emails and you decided to join our town hall meeting today.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll be looking forward to that.
Okay, everyone. So if there is nothing else, we will conclude. Again, I wanted to also mention that we have been in touch with the Diaspora Affairs Office of Ghana. They shared with us their agenda going into this upcoming year. Some of us will be attending the Diaspora Summit that they're having this upcoming week, and we'll share back thoughts and report regarding that. But in the past, GHPAC has been very interested in a diaspora bill, basically to encapsulate all of the issues that we have as diasporans that we want to see this governments take up. And so, there's been indication that this fertile ground to be introducing that with this current administration. And so that's going to be a big focus of ours. So the diaspora bill will address everything from, the concept of a diaspora ministry, the concept of a seat in Ghana Parliament dedicated to the diaspora, ROPA, which will give us the right to vote. Also just, estate planning, estate rights, land rights, all these things that that impact us. Okay. So if you're interested in any of that, we have a Ghana policy team. We have the US policy team if you're interested in all the stuff that we've talked about earlier today. If you're just interested in membership, again, visit GhanaDiasporaPAC.org, click on become a member, and pick a team if you're interested. All right, and Golden Gala, September 26th, in DC, bookmark that, save the date, get your early bird ticket if you can, because it's going to be a movie. All right, so thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.